So we left Levy Forestry Camp behind. And at the time that we left the forestry camp, I had about 60 days remaining in my sentence. So now I'm at a new place and I have to start pretty much all over, getting to know new correctional officers, new inmates, whereas at Levy, I knew everyone, everyone knew me, and I was comfortable. And because my sentence was so short, I was not given a job. So I had to find other things to occupy my time. I started a choir, and I can't really hold a note. But at Levy, we had a choir. And at Lowell's work camp, there was no choir. There were really no extracurricular activities. So I bought the poetry ministry from Levy to Lowell work camp, and then I started a choir. The choir gave people an outlet. There were some really talented women at Lowell work camp. Really, really talented women, sing like birds. And so the choir was something to give them something to look forward to. When we arrived to Lowell work camp, it was kind of like a mini family reunion because those that had left before us were already there. So when we got off that bus, they welcomed us with open arms. And then they let us know who to trust and who not to trust on the compound. At Lowell work camp, they had an equestrian program where the women would learn how to take care and treat horses. They had and that's about it. They didn't have anything different from Levy. And now, because Levy was closed, those who were in forestry would come to Lowell work camp and pick up the girls and take them to forestry. The Lowell women were not too happy about that because everyone thought pulling trees was the worst job ever. I didn't think so. There were some correctional officers that transferred from Levy to Lowell, and mostly it was the good ones that transferred. And I remember the day the LT, aka Captain, came on the compound, and she was transferred over to Lowell work camp. Honestly, I don't think she made captain at that time. So LT was transferred to Lowell, and when we saw her, aka the Levy girls saw her, we were ecstatic because we knew that things would finally get done. And we bombarded her with requests that we needed. And I believe that is one of the ways that I got that choir started. At Lowell work camp, there were maybe 6 or 7 dorms with about 40 women to each dorm. So instead of about 100 girls, there were about 3 times as many women on that particular work camp. And it wasn't as close-knit as Levy was. When I got there, all I wanted to do was do my last 60 days and go home. I remember the night before I was set to go home. I had already received my end of sentence attire that my mom sent me. And that was like the highlight of everyone's, time. That made it feel like it was really real. We are about to go home once we receive this outfit and are able to try on these clothes. It's time for us to leave. And I remember the day before, it was time for me to EOS. It was going to be the last church program that I was going to go to as an inmate. And somehow I was the MC for that night. I cannot remember how that happened, but it was packed. Everyone knew it was my last night, and because I had started the choir on low work camp, I had kind of become well known, I suppose. And because I was the poet, everyone knew me by that. And so this night, my last night, the program, the church service was packed. And I remember performing, and then someone told me that Stack wanted or had written a piece, and she wanted me to read it. And one of the girls, they were like, no, she needs to read it. They didn't want me to read it. They wanted her to read it. And I agreed. I'm not going to read your work. You read your work. But she was nervous. And so I did coerce her to come up in front of all these women and read what she had written. Unbeknownst to me, she had written somewhat of a thank you letter to me. And I promised myself before that service that I was not going to cry. And the words that she wrote on that paper made me bawl. It meant so much to me that she thought so much of me. And I was floored, and I was thankful, and I was grateful. And she said that I touched her and I helped her. But she did the same for me. Her name, Cynthia Stack. Cynthia was a nurse who got addicted to opioids. And she had written prescriptions on the doctor's notepad for herself. A couple years ago, Cynthia was killed. Her and her son in their home. Cynthia had turned her life around. She was doing well. She wasn't able to be a nurse anymore, but she was being who she was meant to be. And for her life to be taken over foolishness bothered me. I remember at Levy, she was sitting outside, and she was in a mood. She was having a bad day. And I sang, sometimes you have to encourage yourself. And she said that made her day. Well, Cynthia Stack, you made my day more than you know. So the night before I went home was memorable, needless to say. And I remember night count sitting on my bunk, and we had to say our DC number, our Department of Corrections number. My Department of Corrections number is J42433. And as I sat on my bunk, and the correctional officer came and walked by, and I said, Jenkins to name, J42433. And half the dorm said, for the last and final time, J424333. That was my final sign off. And at 11 o'clock, as I lay in my bunk, waiting on a shift change, waiting for someone to come and tap or kick my bed to tell me it was time to get up out of there, I felt, for the first time in a long time, freedom. And when they kicked my bunk and I had taken my box and my mesh bag and walked to the gate to get processed out, and they handed me my $100, which was actually too much money. They handed me my $100, and I walked out, and I inhaled that freedom. And I saw my mom, and I saw my girlfriend, not the one that I was with when I got there. But I saw my mom and I saw my girlfriend. I didn't cry. I just felt. I felt those feelings. I was finally free.